Were you scared as a kid? Like me? Generally speaking, kids are usually scared of the dark and what monster they may conjure up in their mind, which they believe resides within the unseeable black. Typically, they have something like a stuffed animal or something like that to act as an effigy to protect them while they sleep. When I was a kid, I was scared the hell of the dark. Just the idea of an area of my immediate space drenched in black was unsettling. This was despite constant reassurance from my parents that nothing was going to jump out and eat me. But I knew better. It started up randomly. One night as I was laying in bed, the darkness seemed, well, darker than usual. At this point, I was already mostly under the covers with no intention of leaving before sunrise. It seemed like there was something moving within the dark. I could hear this subtle clicking sound. It was like someone clicking a mouse and snapping their fingers. The sound seemed as if it was coming from all directions and it would increase and decrease in intensity. It's just your imagination, I would constantly tell myself. I would think this over and over, but those sounds would always be there to remind me otherwise. This would happen night after night, and as the nights went on, the sound got louder and slowly closer. Eventually, my parents knew they had to do something so that they could get a good night's sleep, and I would stop coming off as if I was losing my mind. Once we were walking past the toy shop, and I stopped dead in my tracks, so I glanced towards the front window. There was a box set of plastic toy soldiers. There was exactly 100 pieces within the set, and it was comprised of basic troops, heavy weapons, planes, tanks, and various fortifications. I didn't know why I was so transfixed by it at the time, but my parents noticed my interest and bought it for me. They probably thought it would help get my mind off whatever was scaring me. The set was called Battle for Fort Zern, and it came with two opposing sides. One side was colored green, the other was colored gray. The following night, I cracked open the box and spread out all the pieces. I remember I was pretty amazed by how detailed they looked. I could see the expressions on their faces and the wrinkles in their uniforms. And being the small, wondrous child that I was, I battled with them all night long until I passed out on my bed. The little toy soldiers still spread out on my floor. It was in the dead of night. I was woken up by some strange sounds. I slowly cracked open my eyes, and, well, to say I was surprised would be the understatement of the year. I saw the very same toy soldiers I had been playing with all moving about the floor of my bedroom. They were setting up barriers, placing down artillery and machine guns. They were even driving their tanks and vehicles around. I was shocked. Honestly, I'd never seen anything like it. I thought I was dreaming, but at the same time, I was completely okay with it. Obviously, I was more than willing to watch a bunch of toy soldiers come into life. What kid wouldn't? I ended up sleeping pretty well that night, knowing that I'd be protected by little plastic soldiers. When I finally woke, I turned and saw that they were gone, and the box was laying where I had left it as if nothing had happened. I was just dreaming, I told myself. The next night, I had just gotten done messing around with them before I finally hopped into bed, pulled the covers over myself, and dozed off. It was that night that it happened. I was again woken up in the middle of the night by that same damn clicking sound. I peered out from under the blankets and, to my horror, I could faintly see my bedroom door slowly opening. I watched as a lean, bony-looking arm jaggedly reached into the room. It made those same clicking sounds as it moved, blindly sweeping the floor as it searched for prey. The arm then stopped, and quickly facing my bed, it started moving closer. I couldn't see its whole body, only the arm. It was an arm which was long enough to reach from my bedroom door to my bed. By this point, I was in tears as the arm drew closer. As it reared up over my bed, a beam of light hit it, causing it to hastily retreat out of my room. I turned to where the light came from, and aligned along the perimeter of my bed were the toy soldiers. A watchtower with a spotlight had been placed on a shelf that stood above my bed. I watched as the watchtower faced the box they came in and started flashing. I glanced towards the box, and a small light peeking out from inside the box started flashing in reply. The box then started rocking back and forth until it fell over, the top flying off and all of its contents spilling out onto the floor. One of the soldiers that fell out quickly looked up and surveyed the perimeter. He then got up and whistled. The others soon joined him. They assembled their tanks, planes, and many barriers and barricades in front of my bed facing the door. Finally, one of them, dressed as an officer, took their place at the front. I remembered him as the commander of the Green Ones, and alongside him was the commander of the Grey Ones. My bedroom door started shaking violently. The towers trained their spotlights on the door, and those assembled at my bed took their positions. I just stayed perfectly still and watched. My bedroom door then swung open, and what lumbered into my room was, well, indescribable to say the least. From what I could see, it stood on two short legs and had an elongated body with a pair of very long arms. It looked mannequin-like, but its face it was covered in other smaller faces. They were children's faces. All of its body was wrapped in skin that hung off its limbs like tattered rags. I would be lying if I said I wasn't scared. I wanted to scream for my parents, but nothing came out. It gave out that same clicking and snapping sound, only this time it was more guttural. Right then, it started towards me. I saw a flash. Then the monster's head was rocked back by an explosion. Several more impacted its face and torso. I looked down, and I watched as the toy tanks and soldiers opened fire on the monster. I was at a loss for words. I could only lay there and watch this battle unfold in front of me. I saw little toy tanks firing round after round and planes flying overhead on strafing runs. I quickly hid under my blankets, and I think I must have passed out. When I woke up later, everything was gone. The monster was no longer in my room, my door was closed, and the toy soldiers were back inside their box, which was right side up, just like before. I slowly got out of bed and checked around the room. Everything seemed normal until I reached my desk. On my desk were 74 small battlefield crosses. Standing in front of the crosses were the two green and gray commanders. They both turned towards me, and the conversation that we had would stick with me for decades to come. It is many years later, and if you are reading this, then it means I am no longer around. So to you, son, I say this. There are monsters in the dark, but fear not. For if there are monsters, then there are guardians that will slay them. I leave these very guardians to you, and perhaps you someday will leave them to your son too. Well, okay then. I'm not gonna lie, I got pretty foggy-eyed when I was writing the script for the story. Like, for reals. I was getting, like, kind of super foggy-eyed. I don't know why, though. But this is the toys on my shelf. And it's actually a smaller, condensed version of a bigger story I got on the back burner right now. But anyways, I hope you guys liked it. This was this week's Fractured Stories episode. Hope it was good. Again, every time I'm writing one of these stories, I'm always paranoid that's like, people, ain't down for these kinds of stories anymore. All they want to do are those, like, cheap, 2-minute creepypastas. The one's called, I went and met my Tinder date, and I shouldn't have. Listen, the only thing you're going to be good for is a laugh, but that's literally it. I'm sorry. Yes, but anyways, I hope you enjoyed. This one was more near and dear to my heart. I really loved playing with the little green plastic soldiers I used to have as a kid. Anyone else have those? I remember them being pretty popular. I mean, they were amazing for me, so. Anyways, this was your good friend, Musical Pumpkin, watching over your pumpkin patch, along with the Battle for Fort Zern toy soldiers. We're all in this together. We're all watching over the patch. And the patch is rolling out. God, that joke's getting fucking old. Okay. Later, everybody. Stay awesome.